Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I am a very sad Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review of Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 9. This episode is titled How the Story Ends, and even from the moment I heard that title, because they released that title long before there was any other material out there for this episode, I was scared, terrified. Like, the best case scenario in my head was like, okay, maybe this is the episode where the rescue happens, even if it seems a little early.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, something that Matt's been saying for most of the season has come true, which is that we ended up losing Van. And I mean, this is a relationship that I think a lot of us out there have been rooting for and just have really enjoyed watching Van and Ty. And this season has been tough because it's been sort of the darker version of Ty that's been around. And, we haven't actually got to see the two of them together the way that they should be and want to be, where Van wants to be with Ty and not sort of this shadow self of her. And it's just this very last minute heartbreaking moment where we have it where Van is able to actually get her back, but it's so fleeting, it's so tragic. I'm really on the fence about this. Like, I know this show has big deaths. I know
Yeah.
that the Yellowjackets are probably all going to end up dead in the present, except maybe one, which I think is Misty. But I just didn't want to see this relationship end, and I definitely didn't want to see it where we didn't get Ty and Van's true self together for most of the season.
There are so many reasons why this death is so hard at this particular point. And I think it starts with this idea of, for a lot of these women who were in the wilderness, they didn't have that much that they could take out of it. And yeah, I know that Van and Ty weren't together for a long time in the present. Everything only started to turn around in season 2, but
Yeah.
this is a relationship that did grow closer at times in the wilderness. And they had this sort of shared bond that nobody else on the outside world other than these Yellowjackets can ever really understand. And that's what makes it so emotional and so hard. And the way it happened, and this commentary on Van having this opportunity to be a hero and to have this hero's moment, but not all heroes get to survive until the very end. And then you're kind of coupling all this with, yeah, I thought Van was gonna die this season, but this is not how I expected Van was going to die at all. I never even thought it was possible that Melissa was going to be the one to take her out.
I had no idea. This whole thing is really shocking. It's taken a while to process what has happened watching these sort of high school sweethearts
Yeah.
go through what they've gone through to get to this point where Van, for me, has always been a hero of this whole story. She
Yeah.
is somebody who does want to do the right thing and, wants to do right by other people. And even in these final moments right before she dies, she's like, she wants to do right by Ty, but she can't take someone else's life to do it. And she does the right thing. And it ends up being this horrible decision that
I
ends
know.
up taking her out. But she went out the way that she was in life. She was a good person.
And I think that's the biggest thing we all can take from this. Like, I more than understand if a lot of people out there are feeling really, really emotional. Like, it's not
I
lost.
feel raw about it.
Yeah, it's not lost on us how important this relationship was to so many people out there. So, we feel you, we see you, and, we're going to talk through everything that happened in this. We'll give a tribute to the great Lauren Ambrose, who I know both of us have loved for a really, really long time. And of course, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about here as well. So as we get into all of it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We will be here to discuss the finale that is coming up. We have a preview, theory, all sorts of other good stuff on the way. And of course, there's a lot of other big things happening here at the channel. The Last of Us is premiering very, very soon. We're really excited to get into that on Showtime. Dexter Resurrection coming this summer. If you guys missed it, Dexter Original Sin has been formally renewed. There is more of that coming as well.
And also Handmaid's Tale. It's
Mhm.
kicking off next week, and we're going to have videos here at the channel on that. We'll be back for that.
Yeah.
And if you want more Yellow Jackets discussion, you can follow us over on our Patreon and talk to us over there about the show. We are covering over there The Pit, which is airing on Max, and it's the only place that you can get those videos, as well as Bosch Legacy, which is in its final season. So thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us over there.
Thank you, guys. We really, really do appreciate that.
Okay, so what is going on with Melissa? It was quite shocking, this final scene. Like you said, you know, we didn't see that Melissa was going to turn around and basically
No.
be like, the wilderness is choosing. Like, she's still fully immersed in a way that I did not expect to see. So what is really going on here? How immersed is she? Like, what is going on?
Okay, I'll put on a tinfoil hat because this is
Okay.
really, my thoughts on this are a little bit complicated because I think Melissa as a character is a little bit complicated. And we talked a little bit about this in our episode 8 discussion, how Melissa, perhaps more so than any other Yellow Jacket in the present, has lived her life under this mantra of, I am better if I just suppress everything. If I act like it didn't happen, I take a new name, I live this new life with Alex, I just sort of start brand new. But a lot of the problem when it comes to sort of repressing all these memories is that things can come back up. And when they come back up, they can be really, really extreme. And this is where we try to put ourselves in Melissa's position in this episode where she has been basically captured by the other Yellow Jacket. She's been locked up. They don't want to believe her on anything. Shauna is able to use some information about her and what she has done effectively against her. And then she's able to effectively manipulate Van into not going through with something. Yeah, I think we could view this moment as, oh, all these repressed feelings, this wilderness is all coming back. But I don't think it's just that. I also just think it is her view of self-preservation at this point because she's been taken. And I think she kind of feels like, especially with them in league with Shauna, if she doesn't do whatever it takes to get out of there, Shauna's going to do something terrible to her.
It could be self-preservation or tinfoil hat.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
She is still sort of practicing what is going on with the wilderness, but back at home, and she's doing it in a way to preserve her family and to preserve her family unit. That maybe something is going on in her life where she feels that she needs to start taking out some of the other Yellow Jackets and she needs to resurface. Because why are you, Melissa, going to fake your own death, to change your name, to disappear, and then send a tape to Shauna? It feels like a lure to lure her out of her house, to bring her to you so that you can have some sort of a sacrifice. If it was all your therapist, Barbara's like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
you know, get rid of the tape. It's the last thing. Okay, cool. Then throw it in your fireplace. You have a fireplace there that's smoking out the house. So why are you then going to put the symbol on this envelope, send it to Shauna, letter, all that? Why are you doing that if you are hiding out? You have faked your death. That is not easy. Everything that they went through, they went to her funeral to then send the tape. It feels like she's trying to draw them out because something is going on and she needed a sacrifice.
Well, this is where, if we're going down this particular road, this is where I start to eyeball this therapist who we haven't even met on the show as of yet. And
Barbara.
I say this as somebody who, you know, I've gotten bad advice from therapists before. Like, it happens. Even if they're
It
not
does.
nefarious people, it still happens. But maybe this is a situation where either Barbara has given some bad advice in the lens of Melissa needing closure, or this therapist has some sort of nefarious purpose of their own, and
Or
maybe
Barbara just doesn't exist.
yeah, like there's something off about all of this. Just because we're talking about things that happened decades ago, and all of a sudden Melissa now is going to do something like this. It's even just this idea of getting closure. And, you know, therapists do kind of advocate that this is a process. It's not something that you do all at once. But like, as somebody who has gone through processes like that in therapy before, you know, I have depression. It's just like I've never had a therapist or anybody say that this is a process that needs to last for 20 years and that all of a sudden 20 years in, then it's something you have to overtly deal with. It's just there's something very odd about the timeline.
Yeah, and I don't know that her therapist would specifically
Mhm.
suggest that she would send basically murder evidence to somebody else who
Yeah.
was involved in this murder. We don't know how much Melissa shared, and I don't even think that this therapist is real at all. I think she
Mhm.
just kind of was making things up as she's going. It feels very much like, I know Misty was like, "Oh, the freezer was me." Okay, that's fine or
Yeah.
whatever. But that phone, we talked about this before,
Yeah.
that phone playing Juice Newton's Queen of Hearts, which is not a song that is current. That song has been around for a really long
Yeah.
time. And it is a remake of a Dave Edmunds song that he actually made that song, but it doesn't matter. The more popular version is this. That phone being there playing a song that is not current is
Yeah.
very much like somebody is out there trying to draw Shauna out. We saw that somebody with the longer blonde hair, kind of a shadow, was at that same restaurant. Melissa is doing this on purpose, I feel, to draw her out because she needed a sacrifice, because she still believes.
So there's a couple of bits and pieces here that make a lot of this make a certain amount of sense. Is that Melissa has enough sort of blonde highlights in her hair that she could be that person that we saw at the start of the season. Like I can see that. Like I've seen people be like, "Oh, maybe Crystal's still alive or something." It's just like there's no evidence of Crystal still being alive. We haven't seen Crystal or even heard her mentioned
No,
this season. I
but
guess
she could still be alive. Of
it's
course, all theories are on the table.
yeah, it's still on the table, but to me it is more sensible and interesting at that point that it was Melissa, that Melissa was watching. I don't like the idea that the Queen of Hearts song was just in Shauna's head because then the show is sort of like overtly tricking us. I can buy that somebody left their phone in the bathroom, like that
For sure.
happens here or there. I can't buy that it's going to play a song that's synonymous with the Yellow Jackets. That's too much of a coincidence. Like a lot of us have heard the song Queen of Hearts before, but we're not talking about a song that is just like so widespread that it's on the radio every 5 minutes in the present day here.
No, I don't think I've ever heard it on the radio present day. I mean, I own that album, so I listen to it at home and whatever on YouTube, but I'm 50 years old. Like, this is a really old song.
It just feels to me like if we're going to go down this idea that, okay, Melissa may have been setting a lot of this up because Melissa may have felt like she either needed a sacrifice or closure or whatever else. Like, this is all conceivable, just like it's also conceivable that it's like, okay, even she could not expect that Shauna was going to take it to the extreme in which she took it, where, because whoever does that, even after so many different years. So when she is just sprinting down the highway early on this episode, I think that was pure fear and pure terror at that point. I will say minor beef hat.
Oh.
It is so unbelievably coincidental that the other Yellow Jackets are just just happening to drive by at that particular point. And how long has she been running at that point? I say this as somebody who does not run. I would have already been dead. I would have been passed out on the street like a mile before.
Yeah, it just feels like even with that confrontation when Melissa was like, "Do you want a glass of water?"
Mhm.
and Shauna's like, "No," and then she pours two anyways. It
Yeah.
was just kind of like it it to me feels like Melissa drew her in and she was going to be the sacrifice, but underestimated that Shauna was going to be able to kind of get one over on her, that Shauna was still as wild as she was, that was going to be biting her, and that it got out of control. I think Melissa thought this was going to be a lot easier than it actually turned out to be. And so she panicked. She's running down the street, ran out of gas. Yeah, it's a coincidence, but it's fine. I mean, this show is not realistic, right?
No.
So it's fine that that's what we saw. Walter land in a helicopter. Does this need to be a thing? No, we already know that he's wealthy, so that's not really whatever. But
No.
I'm fine with that. I'll let that one go.
I do have a funny question though. What did they spend more of their budget on this season? Having Walter go in on a helicopter or paying Oasis to have Wonderwall on the
I
show
know. Oh my
earlier
goodness.
this season? But no, okay, there's a big thing I think I'm still stuck on with all of this. And that's just that even if Melissa did a lot of these things and she was sort of setting up this meeting, It does not mean that Melissa killed Lottie. I still do not think that Melissa killed Lottie. Like, we have already talked in these
Yes.
videos about it being potentially Callie, and it's just
Yes.
like, that's not something that I can personally shake.
I still think it's Callie. If Walter is telling the truth
Mhm.
that Shauna's DNA is under the fingernails, I do not think it's Shauna. Then to me, that means that it's Callie. That's the only other option that's there.
Yeah.
Could it be Melissa and Walter is lying? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think that more of Melissa's motivation here is either the wilderness is still calling to her and she needs sacrifices, or it really is kind of about the tape, and that because she is married to Hannah's daughter, everybody knows what happened to Hannah, and that the tape isn't the only thing that could ruin her life, and that she's kind of like, yeah, you're right, Shauna. The only way secrets stay hidden is if there's only one person that has them, and that person's going to be me.
Yeah, there are a lot of different motivations. That's what's going to make this finale so interesting. And obviously, we're all still going to be in our feelings about losing Van by the time we get there. But we
Yes.
have to sort of understand more of why Melissa is doing everything that she's doing. Like, we still have a lot to talk about here in the present, but I just want to take 1 minute to talk about my guy Jeff in this episode. Jeff is just leisuring at this point. He's
Yes, he
got
is.
his new job. He's got his job back, or he never really had it, but the Joels seem to want him on board. I found it oddly weird and oddly endearing that he and Callie are chilling out. They're going to go to an expensive steakhouse. And you know what, Jeff? You've gone through it. I kind of feel like you do deserve a steak at this point.
Here's the thing about Jeff, and I really like this episode for Jeff
Yeah.
and for Callie, because Callie has been really trying to connect with her mom, really trying, and it's just not happening. Shauna is not a person who's going to connect with people in that deeper way. So Callie's always been kind of on the outside.
Yeah.
To hear Jeff actually break down about how lonely he is and how lonely it is being married to Shauna broke my heart in ways that I just didn't know could be broken for him. I felt so bad for him, and kind of then looking back over the years of their marriage and the show and seeing that he is kind of on his own all the time, that he's, we kind of had the laughs with him. Oh, there's no book club. Like, he's really that removed from his marriage, and he's so lonely that he just doesn't know what to do with himself. So seeing that relationship with Callie building this season, where you have two family members that both want to be close to Shauna, to his wife, to their mom, and can't be, but them finding solace in each other is really warming my heart in a show that is very dark.
Yeah, it's very heartwarming. I think that actor, he's probably the most underrated actor on the
I
show to
agree.
me, just because when he gets dramatic material, he does really, really cook with it.
Okay, so what did Misty see on that phone?
This has driven me crazy.
Tinfoil hat.
Okay, good. What is it?
Text from Callie. I think that's what she has seen, and then it's all starting to come together, because I'm convinced that Callie, if what Walter is saying is true, that it is Shauna's DNA that's under the fingernails, and it's not Shauna. Misty wouldn't be having a shocked face if it was Shauna. She'd be like, well, okay, I already knew all this, so this tracks. But if it's Callie that's like sending messages being like, hey, Lottie, I'm going to come down and meet you, or let's meet up at whatever. And of course, because they've built the relationship, Lottie would be like, sure, come on by, no problem. I think that that's what it is. It is text from Callie. Misty has put it together.
I forgot the whole element of it involving Lottie's phone and like some of that information they had. Because I was stuck on this idea. It's like, okay, well, why would Callie text Walter directly? It's like, oh yeah, she doesn't have to for Walter to have figured a lot of this out.
Because he cloned the phone.
Yeah, so no, that makes all of the sense in the world. Because it has to be something that Misty is going to be really, really shocked about. And the other thing that is interesting, of course, at this point, is the idea that, like, okay, Walter may be holding information back from the Yellowjackets. And is that just because he knows how close Misty is to the Yellowjackets, that she's not objective? Like, they clearly dropped a lot of that over the course of this episode. I know it's still fun to talk about Walter like he's a lost sibling of one of the Yellowjackets or he has some unseemly motive. Like, I'm still not off that train. I just don't know when they're actually going to give us that, if they do give us that.
It makes more sense that Walter has some sort of deeper connection to the Yellowjackets.
Yeah.
Will we end up getting that? I really hope so. I really hope it's not just he met Misty on a message board and now we're here.
I also just want to say, Misty, it takes a lot of just gumption to head out of there so fast that you did not even get to have that full drink. Because that thing looked delicious. Walter,
God, Walter
give it to
made me one.
No, no kidding. So, I mean, we have all these questions obviously still in the present, but let's head back to the past now.
Beep, bop, 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 boop. We are in the past where Natalie has discovered that Misty has a transponder this whole time. Oh my goodness. This episode revealed so much. Like, I had been waiting and wondering if that was ever gonna pop back up again. There was a part of me that was thinking it was never gonna pop back up again, because if you know that about Misty, that she's got this or that she might be responsible for that, how do you ever speak to this person ever again back in sort of, we'll call it the present real world, even years later? Like, there's no forgiving that.
That I am still struggling a little bit with this reveal, if I'm being honest, just because of the fact that, one, I kind of did never think that it was going to come back. It's cool that they're going for it, but I'm also at the same time feeling like, okay, if this reveal is coming out, how did Misty make it to the present? Because they've killed people for less in this world of Yellowjackets. They don't even know for sure that Ben burned down the cabin. They just got rid of him because they thought he burned down the cabin.
Oh, I agree. Tinfoil hat. I know I already have one on, but I'm putting on another one.
More.
Okay, so it feels to me that because Misty was watching Van with the sat radio and was like, okay, maybe she can't figure it out, but I can, because I know where the transponder is because I'm the person that smashed it up and I've got it hidden somewhere. And that she's able to figure out, okay, if I take this from this and place it with, this phone, then maybe I can be the person that can rescue us the way that maybe a Lottie or a Shauna or Ty would be okay with. That it's us getting us out of here and it's not Cody.
I think that may be a big part of it. And I'm guessing the only other part of it that I can sort of rationalize Misty not being killed at this point is just that maybe there is some negotiation that's going on with her, with Natalie, where Misty's able to buy her safety in return for helping. And Natalie may not even share it with everybody else at this point because she knows what the consequences to that would be. But it also gets her what she wants, which is rescue, which we saw how much Natalie broke down in this episode once she thought that idea of rescue was not possible.
Once that was gone, that rescue was gone, and the snow started falling. Oh my God, this episode is easily the best episode of the season for me. It was so really good. It's so good. That breakdown broke me apart, but I think she's going to have to keep Misty alive because she knows that she could possibly actually be the rescue to get them out. And if that is the way that they're actually able to get out, then that might be why Misty thinks that Natalie is her best friend, that Natalie is the person that didn't tell on her, that they worked together to make this, phone radio work, and that together they were able to get their own rescue out.
Yeah, all of this would make perfect sense for the timeline of what we know about the Yellowjackets, because we know that there's going to be more snow that's falling. We know that they've been out there for a long time. It feels like there's still a little bit of time left before they're ultimately rescued, but that means that this is a slow process. It's not going to be a situation here where Misty and Natalie go and just like plug in a couple of things and fix the wire. And it's like, hey, we did it, guys. Everything is fine. No, it's going to be a while. We just saw the pit constructed. Like, nobody has fallen in it yet. Like, there's still things that need to be paid off.
No, Lottie's standing on it like she's Jesus. How is this happening? Like, I felt like Travis, where it's just like, what? Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it. Like, he makes this pit. the whole purpose is he is done with Lottie and he
Yeah.
wants to get rid of her at this point where he's just like, you know what? I want to go home.
Yeah.
Like Lottie is stopping me. Sean is stopping me. Ty is stopping me. I can at least try to deal with Lottie. Brings her out and she just walks across it, doesn't fall through, is like standing on water. I was like, I can't believe that this is happening. And it's very interesting because there's a very divided fan base.
Yeah.
Is this all science based of what is happening to them? Is there something supernatural that's happening to them? And then there's also the third option.
Yeah.
Is there actually something spiritual that is a miracle that is happening here? Because I don't know how to explain this. She got lucky, she didn't fall through.
I think there's maybe a spiritual aspect to it. I think she also got a little bit lucky, and there might be some sort of element of, okay, it's not your time. Here's the thing that I was kind of going back to while I was watching that is that, you know, occasionally I will dabble, sometimes not in my best interest, but I will dabble in watching a lot of America's Got Talent clips on YouTube. Like, the show is ridiculous, but there will be
The crossover, I never thought we'd have.
there would be these danger acts sometimes of people who just like lie on these nails
love
while
the
somebody
danger
comes
act.
with like a hammer and like hits them in the head or something. And
My favorite.
I'm always sitting there being like, okay, is this staged? Like, is this actually happening? Are you really lying on? That's the same feeling I got with Lottie. Was like, okay, if those people can lie on the nails, then then Lottie can walk across the pit and be okay, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, we watched him like
Yeah.
trial it out and just throw a log in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Lottie's way heavier than a log. So, like, how is she not going through? And that's where I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that there is a science behind why she didn't go through? Is it spiritual that it's not her time? Is there something
Yeah.
supernatural about it?
Yeah, because I think we're all still struggling with this. And honestly, I think the show wants us to be. I don't think they want to give us a clear answer on this. And I don't think we're going to get a clear answer on this. I think we'll learn a lot about the fate of a lot of characters. I don't think we're going to have as ambiguous an ending here as Lost, but I don't think we're going to have like every single thing spelled out.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've talked about one character we lost, and we'll circle back to that again at the end of this video, but let's talk about Cody here for a moment because, okay, I'm not only am I putting on a hard hat here, I'm putting on a whole suit of armor because I am not done being on the hill that Cody was out there for a very long time, or that Cody burned down the cabin, or any of that. Nothing with Cody dying in this episode makes me feel any different about what he might have done. The fact that it seemed like he wasn't that great at navigating, that he didn't want, you know, Edwin or Hannah to meet up with the Yellowjackets. There's still a lot that's strange. I still don't buy the, oh, I got the Eric bag at the thrift store or any of that other nonsense. Here is my big takeaway from Cody dying. Joel McHale has another show. He also has a community movie. It also feels like he's hosting at least like 3 or 4 shows at the same time. He probably only had a few episodes he was available.
Yeah, and he's on the bear. I mean, he is doing a lot of different things. So yeah, he wasn't going to be long for this show, but at the same time, the way that he went out was really shocking. I mean, there seemed to be like a plan where the girls are divided, the ones that want to stay, the ones that want to leave. And the ones that want to leave came up with this plan where they're like, okay, we're going to give Hannah this knife.
Yeah.
You are going to cut the 2 of you free. Then we are all going to meet at this place and we are going to get out of here. And Shauna kind of figures it out and sort of stops it at the last second. But it's really that Hannah that makes the decision where she takes the knife and she drives it right through Cody's head. And it was really surprising because she turns, of course, to Shauna and is like, I want to be one of you. Now I'm like, okay, is this self-preservation at this point? Because Shauna is there with a gun basically being like, no, none of this is going to happen. And Hannah's like, well, I don't want to die. So what are my choices, right? I can either be like, okay, you got me, or I can blame Cody, kill Cody and be like, I am one of you, so that maybe I can find another way to escape. It kind of felt like that. But then at the same time, she has this talk about Eric with him right before all this goes down. I'm just like, what is the talk with Eric really about? He's kind of like, no, I just got this at a thrift shop. You know, like, I don't know who Eric is. This is whoever owned this gear before me. And she doesn't really seem to buy it.
Yeah, and I think it's fair for her not to buy it. I actually think there might be a little bit of both that's going on here at the same time. It's like, you don't want to die, obviously. Like, self-preservation is a big part of the motive, but at the same time, if you don't trust that Eric is actually going to get you out of there, and given everything that has happened this point with Cody, like, I don't know why you would trust Cody, possibly formerly Eric, or I don't actually think he was ever Eric. But
You
anyway,
never know.
I just don't think that there was a big reason for her to believe that, okay, this guy is going to be the person who ends up saving me. And now if you're out there being like, okay, well, why didn't Cody see this coming, especially if he has been out in the wilderness for a really long time? I have sort of suggested, okay, maybe he is the child of cabin guy, aka in my mind Jason Ritter, and like there was a lot of dark stuff that happened well before the Yellowjackets, and he burned down the cabin because he didn't want any of that dark stuff to ever come to light. Like, why would he not see this coming? Because it's very hard to rationally think that somebody is going to turn down an opportunity at a rescue, especially if he thinks that, okay, Hannah's from the outside world. She's not like these people. She's not going to think like these people. She's going to think rescue, rescue. He's going to be like, I did a good job of passing off the whole Eric thing. So I just don't think he ever believed she was going to do that.
She's in a desperate situation. She wants to get home to her kid.
Yeah.
And I think even though she knows that he is the only person right now that can get them out of this wilderness, he is, whether he's, taking over Eric's personality or whatever, all of that, he is the person who was their guide, who was getting them through this wilderness, and who can get them out. For her to choose to kill off the only person that could get them out, she's got to be, for me, in self-preservation mode to be like, okay, Shauna could either kill both of us right now, or I could turn and kill Cody and look for another opportunity down the road to be able to get back to my kid and be like, I am one of you, and try to find another way to escape.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of her mindset at this point. And I thought it some way, somehow, she was going to still be with the Yellowjackets for a while, just because of what we had learned about her being close to Melissa and Jen. It was like, okay, her story's not done.
Oh, Melissa, that whole fight with Shauna and Melissa, and watching Shauna just berate her, calling her stupid, saying that she's nothing, pointing the gun at her, shooting her and it's going through her jacket, and watching that embarrassing moment happen to her. Of course, Van is jumping up and giving her dignity. It broke me apart to see her humiliated in that way. It's so bad. And I know that there's so many people out there, especially this season, that are like, F Shauna, we're done with Shauna. Shauna is evil. We're done. Don't like her. That was the moment that turned it for me. Shauna has done a lot of horrible things in the past, present, where I'm like, okay, I get it. There's this that's happening to her and that and whatever. But this was just awful. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah, Shauna has become very, very unlikable in a number of different ways. And she's always had elements of it. But this is one of the reasons why I am finding myself agreeing more and more with you that Misty should be the last person standing among the Yellowjackets in the present, just because she's far from perfect, but I do find her certainly more likable than Shauna. And I think that she's capable of a lot of different emotions. But yeah, this was awful what Shauna did in the past. But beyond just that, it really explains further why Melissa did what she did in faking her own death, because it's like, okay, she doesn't have a bond with Shauna anymore. Presumably Jen is dead based on what we have heard. Obviously they were wrong about Melissa. So
anything's possible, guys.
Anything's possible. Presumably Hannah's also gone. So it's just like, okay, there might not been a lot of friends for her. And the people who were still alive are people like Shauna, who treated her really, really bad. So it's like, okay, I can understand a little bit more of maybe why you did what you did, Melissa.
Yeah, and it would also then still continue to build up of, my theory that maybe Melissa was doing this on purpose to draw out Shauna specifically. I mean, something like that happens. I mean, there's lots of us that have gone through humiliating things in high school, maybe not as humiliating as that, maybe as humiliating as that, maybe even more humiliating than that completely change our lives and who we are moving forward. And some of us are able to let go of those things and some of us don't. And they really form who we are, and we just want to have that moment of revenge or whatever it is, where it's like, you did this thing to me and now I'm getting what I need out of it.
Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of a story time here because there was an incident that happened to me in high school that was really really humiliating, where people basically held me down to a chair and like wrote all sorts of graffiti and all sorts of stuff on my head and then carted me through the hallways of the school, and it was really really bad. It still
It
sticks
is
with me. I
bad.
mean, the people involved, they've apologized and and moved forward. I can forgive, but you don't forget. It's like those things do still stick with you, and we don't know exactly where Melissa's mindset is with all of this, but she's certainly
Right.
not going to forget about it. And if she doesn't forgive, then it's a perfect opportunity for her down the road, maybe with the prompting of a therapist who may or may not actually exist based on what you're saying. Like maybe that is all kind of an impetus if something builds up and builds up, especially if you are trying to repress it otherwise. That can kind of lead to this sort of explosion of emotion later on.
I do sympathize with Melissa and everything that she has gone through, but she has also killed Van,
Yeah.
who is one of my favorite characters, and I did not want to see her
No,
go. I mean, yeah, she went out a hero that she was able to bring Ty back, but at the same time, man, Ty, I hope you get revenge.
I hope you get revenge too. And as we start to wrap this video up here, let's just have a little bit of a tribute to Lauren Ambrose, who is somebody who I know both of us really, really love, dating
Love.
all the way back to 6 Feet Under. But I just have a message right now for all of Hollywood, actually, and all of the producers, because I feel like after 6 Feet Under, we went a long time without seeing Lauren Ambrose in a lot of like big mainstream things.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody please cast her in something. Give her a big
No.
series regular role. The
On
fact,
the next White Lotus, let's go.
oh my goodness.
She's
Okay, yes.
amazing.
White Lotus, call Lauren Ambrose. Got a history with HBO. Like, let's find a way to make this happen because yeah, she deserves something really, really big. And just the fact that she came into this show season 2, she wasn't an OG, just like Lottie wasn't an OG. It was
Yeah.
always that was always sort of worrisome in itself.
Yeah.
But that's where we are coming out of Yellowjackets season 3, episode 9. Let us know what you thought about this story. How much did all of you guys cry in the whole hero back and forth between young and adult Van and the treasure
Oh.
motifs? Like that just completely gutted me.
Yeah, it did. And all the Goonies talk and them on the
I
plane,
know.
and that it's like, yeah, you're the hero, but heroes don't always get to stay there and enjoy the spoils.
Just a really just beautiful, heart-wrenching final scene here. But
Yeah.
hit that subscribe button so you guys do not miss any more Yellow Jackets coverage. And you can support us more by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We're covering exclusively there in video form The Pit and then
Mhm.
also Bosch Legacy. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.